Hello, it's Scott Manley here. Today, I'm going to be flying in zero G.
So if you're a regular watcher of this channel or anything space related, you probably know what's going on here. This is an aircraft which flies special trajectories to let people inside it experience low and even zero gravity and float around and, do science. Okay, I admit there wasn't a lot of science going on. This was a public flight with people that had paid to do this for fun. I, of course, was the complete dork and was trying to, measure the rotation of the cabin by spinning an object around and watching the gyroscopic effect. But that didn't work very well on account of the bodies flying around in the air in the cabin. But seriously though, it was an amazing experience, and I'm glad to have got like one step up the ladder of space tourism. You may well remember these people who this was one step on their trip, right? The moment where they were acclimatizing themselves to the experience of being in zero gravity, because they would go on to spend 3 days in orbit in a Dragon spacecraft. So now at this point, the Federal Trade Commission insists that I tell you that the Zero Gravity Corporation paid for this flight. They had a spare seat, they put me in it, I did my stuff, and in return, they want me to promote this to you, right? This is a sponsored video. And of course, it's not like this is selling some rubbish VPN thing or low quality earbuds. This is something that you all know whether you want to do or not, and I expect that it's very close to 90+% if you think this is one of the things you would love to do at some point in your life. So selling you on the concept, that's easy. Selling you on the price, that's a little harder. This is an experience that lasts a couple of hours but costs thousands of dollars. It is something which is absolutely unique, and the good news is that in their infinite generosity, they have allowed me to share a discount code that's ZG Scott Manley or Zulu Golf Scott Manley. Type that in when you're signing up and you'll get a bit of a discount which will, well, lighten load, so to speak. And as space tourism goes, it's definitely one of the lower cost options. This is thousands of dollars. Flying on a suborbital flight is hundreds of thousands of dollars for a few minutes. And of course, going to space is several days for about $50 million. And it turns out that in terms of dollars per zero G second, this is actually the cheapest. Anyway, I really want to talk about the mechanics of all of this. This is a civilian-operated flight that actually has replaced NASA's Office of Low Gravity, and now NASA pays to fly their experiments on this flight when they need, low-gravity environments. NASA had been operating their own program since the 1950s. They started out with a C-131 Samaritan, and that was quickly replaced by a pair of C-135 Stratotankers, which were converted for zero-G use. And in the 21st century, they got a C-9B Skytrain, which operated for a few years before they finally passed it over to the private companies. That transition took about 20 years. In the 1990s, NASA was directed to look for commercial replacements. It took them a while to define their requirements. And so Zero Gravity Corporation come along, and it takes them about a decade to go from the idea to getting a patent on the changes that they need to make to an aircraft to make it suitable, to finally getting their first NASA contracts. And by about 2014, NASA finally closed its Office of Zero G Research, and Zero Gravity Corporation are the main supplier right now. But because they're now a private corporation doing this, it means they can sell tickets to random members of the public. Plebs like me can enjoy this experience. Of course, because it's a private company performing a flight that has to actually comply with federal aviation regulations for airliners. That means, for example, that everybody has to go through the standard TSA security check for liquids and weapons and stuff. And there needs to be a standard passenger briefing. And there are differences with this aircraft. The oxygen masks are in completely different positions. So these commercial flights operate out of several cities across the USA. I think it's only the USA because of noise regulations regarding this old aircraft. But yeah, the plane basically flies in, meets a bunch of passengers and gives them the tour, and then flies on to the next city.
Okay, so I'm going to be flying in this. This is a 727-227F. It is a 1976 Boeing 797, which has been converted to fly in zero G. Okay. Wow. Rear entry on the stairs. That is some old school stuff. Hello! Hi. Got my pass.
All right. You're in 3D.
3D.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Fly safe, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my god, how will I ever find the road? There's so many.
Right there.
3D. Oh, I got an aisle seat. Okay.
All of the cities they operate out of are fairly large, which means the airspace is, pretty congested. So typically they'll fly out for about 30-40 miles, and then they have a box allocated in Class A airspace above 18,000 feet, where they can basically fly their maneuvers and then turn around, and as long as they stay within that region, they're guaranteed that nobody else will be vectored into their airspace. The initial few parabolas are flown at lunar gravity just to help you get adapted. Also, they tell everyone to lay on the backs because that tends to be better for dealing with motion sickness. And actually, I don't think we had anyone on our flight that had any problems with that. The biggest problem is that you're just simply not used to it, so early on you spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to get up, and then, you end up jumping and bumping into the ceiling even when you don't try. You see me messing around with my phone, that's because I had a G-meter app running on my phone and I wanted to show the transition from the hypergravity. At this point it was only 1.6. I think the highest I saw it go was like 1.9. And of course, as you transition out of the climb, it starts to drop off. And I really wanted to get this photo of my iPhone just floating around in the air with a 0G on it. Turns out things weren't quite as cool as I expected because my GoPro was a very old model and all the images tended to be kinda blurry. Still, it's the thought that counts. I can also confirm that doing one-arm push-ups in lunar gravity is a whole lot easier than Earth gravity on account of the fact that I can do more than one. But soon, the flight was over and I got to do the little ritual where you step out and have your badge flipped the right way up to show that you are a 0G veteran. Get, my photo for the archives. But then my trip wasn't finished because I wanted to spend some time talking to these guys. These are the pilots, and I wanted to get into the details of how this actually works. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the concept. The aircraft pulls into a very steep climb, so it's going upwards very fast, and then they just push the nose down and let the aircraft follow a trajectory that it would follow if it were just being affected by gravity. And that means that everything in the back is basically feeling that fall as if it were in 0G. But there's a time limit for how long they can do this. Eventually they reach the top of their arc and start descending and picking up more speed. And eventually they have to pull out of this dive before they reach the point where they would exceed the structural limits of the aircraft. This gives everyone in the back of the aircraft just over 20 seconds of reduced gravity.
Okay, let's wander up to the front of the plane. This is where the magic happens, okay?
Lifesavers.
Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, it's going great.
Derek.
Derek, hi,
Hey, Scott.
pleased to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I am very excited at the work you've just done.
Thank you.
Wow.
We enjoy doing this work.
Let's take a look
Enjoy
at
it.
this, yeah. Because I'm going to say, I'm currently learning to fly. My plane has way more screens than this one.
What are you flying?
A Cirrus SR20.
This is
It's
old.
like all, yeah, exactly.
It's great.
But there's a
Little bit cooler.
whole lot of...
Oh, yeah. This is tech.
You do have some retrofitted stuff here, right? What does the beer low button do?
It never comes
with
on.
beer.
We have our mechanic on top of that all the time. Is that good enough, Carlos?
When we get thirsty.
I need a picture of that when you're done.
Yeah. But this is it's a 727 from like 1970s, right?
1976, 727, 227.
Yeah.
It is the old school stuff. We're flying the needles.
You're flying the needle.
That's right.
And so when you're actually flying the 0G, is there a G meter here that you're reading?
Yes.
So is that up there? Okay.
And the back,
So that comes up.
And a standby right behind it.
Right. And I think I've seen that. So you pop that out and you're basically trying to fly the corridor that sets that to 0. And you're doing this manually.
All manually.
So there's no like even yaw dampener or anything?
No, well, we have a yaw damper.
Okay.
We have to because it's a swept wing aircraft. So
Okay.
we have the yaw dampers on all the time, but we don't use any automation, autopilot to fly it. It's very by feel.
Even our approaches, you
Yeah.
have to hand fly them because the autopilot just doesn't keep up.
Yeah.
You have more technology in your SR20. Is it a G6 SR20?
It's a G6, yeah.
Yeah, so G6 SR20 is going to have the same kind of technology as like an
3-axis
Airbus or a
autopilot.
modern Boeing,
Yeah.
and this is an older Boeing. And we have a UNS-1.
Right, okay.
But it's mostly functions as a GPS
Right.
to get us around the country.
And so typically one of you's flying, right? It's not like...
Yeah, left seater flies. We swap. We're both captains.
Okay.
The right seater controls the throttles during the parabolic maneuvers, and we want to, control the engine so we're not over boosting.
And the engineer holds us down so we don't float away.
Actually, this is Carlos. He was born with the airplane. He came from Boeing.
He came with it.
And he's been installed ever since.
Yeah.
I helped build it.
Oh, yeah.
Don't listen to these guys.
But and so I'm really curious. You get through the ballistic. You're flying through this parabolic arc, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people think it's just like controlling the pitch, but you have to control the thrust, right?
Yes, everything.
And you have to keep everything on the needle.
Every variable. There's wind up there we got to deal with.
Uh-huh.
The wind will roll the airplane in either direction, and we have to compensate for that.
Just kind of let it.
Because you're going through multiple flight levels, and I guess there's wind shear between them, right?
Turbulence, dealing with turbulence. We didn't have much today,
Today,
which is
lucky.
great.
Yeah, it's great.
But we did have a very strong wind of 66 knots that we had to contend with, and we kind of take the feel out of it so you guys don't feel it back there.
Yeah.
Also, the engines are used to control drift, so, people moving forward and backwards in the cabin. We have an accelerometer that shows the x-axis across the aircraft so we can see if we're accelerating or decelerating, and with the number 2 engine, he'll control. That way that you guys don't all go to the back of the airplane or all to the front of the airplane and keep you in the center. And then our highest level of technology that's in the aircraft, it's actually top secret. I shouldn't be saying this for YouTube, but it's the duck. And we turn the duck up, and the aviator duck shows us if it's where it's drifting, and if you're slightly negative G or slightly positive G, where we're trending. It shows trend.
So, how fast are you doing these maneuvers at then?
As fast as you can go.
So I think, doesn't the 727 go like 0.9?
This will do 0.87 and 350.
Okay.
Yeah, so we bring it right up to
We're at the
350
bar pull.
and then start the pull.
Right. So you basically go into the climb at the start of and then by the time you go 0, you've lost a bit, I guess.
We're down at 235, and then we count it in. So around 200, 210, 200, we push. And then the power comes out. The number 2, you keep some thrust in.
Yeah.
And then it just depends on the day how slow you go. I mean, I've seen it down to 100 knots.
100 knots at the apex. But you're 0G, so you can't stall this thing if it's pointing the right way.
It's
There's
zero,
no load factor.
zero angle of attack.
Right. Ideally.
Yeah.
And so you've got 3 engines, but I hear that only the center engine is providing thrust.
Yeah, we use the center engine only during the parabola. So we had all 3, and imagine you have 0 induced drag.
Yeah.
Right? The plane's going to accelerate right away. So we left all 3 engines up. You have 0 induced drag on the wing.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna go.
Right.
So number 1 and 3 are at idle, and number 2 we move it in the center, kind of mid power range, to pressurize the airplane and control the drift and keep it from accelerating or decelerating too much.
And like at the bottom of the arc, do you bring the other engines in?
When we come out, we're about 45 degrees nose low. We use that momentum to accelerate along with pushing the power levers up to 90%.
Right.
And then just use that energy to go back right up into the next one.
Right, because I'm just thinking this through. Those engines have lag time, and you have to plan this thing out.
Yep.
Do you have like a checklist that you go through in real time?
Yeah, we have checklists.
Checklists are for professionals. We got it all up here.
Oh, God, I've heard that.
We do everything by feel. We don't even read.
This is such an amazing piece of hardware. I'm just sorry. I love
One of the things that
the beauty.
American aircraft, American airline industry, well, really worldwide now. I mean, everything's up to snuff as far as automation and technology. So if you have an engine failure and you're flying on Delta or United, the computer's going to take care of a lot of stuff. And this airplane, he is the computer. So when we have a problem, he's handling it manually, moving valves, moving fluids, moving energy, and doing that kind of stuff. So you really, these guys have to be on their game more than pilots.
Yeah.
They really have to know the airplane in and out.
Yeah, I mean, this is just automated in a lot of modern
It's
planes.
not that we've ever had to do. That's all.
Yeah.
We only deal with that.
We basically, everything has to work on this airplane to do what we do, everything. All the electrics have to work, the fuel pumps have to work, all the hydraulics basically, pressurization is a must.
Yeah.
Everything's gotta be functioning, or
So-
we don't do it.
This is awesome. And is it worth talking about the changes, the modifications to this, or you want to?
There's really none.
I mean,
we pressurized the hydraulic system. That's it. It is a standard 727.
So
it has regular wing spar. That we haven't added any strengthening to it or anything like that.
So like the engines will run at like 0 Gs without any oil issues. Okay.
No problem.
Wow.
No, they won't stall or anything.
These lights come on occasionally, but it's normal.
Right. The low oil pressure. Yeah. Yeah.
If they don't, something's wrong.
Yeah. We run all the fuel pumps. Obviously, the fuel is floating around in the tanks.
Yeah.
But we have a minimum amount of fuel that we have to have in the tanks to do parabolas, and we stay well above that.
Oh, okay. So that's your plan. You basically have extra. So you land with extra fuel, I guess.
Oh yeah.
We leave topped off all the time. We're topped off.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting.
So we're pretty heavy on fuel when we came out of here today.
And you just always have it in the tanks then.
Yeah. So in comparison to your SR20 with has an IO 360 and 390. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That burns maybe 0.2 gallons on takeoff. We burn 350 gallons on takeoff.
That's crazy.
So anyway, I think we've got to the point where I'm contractually required again to try and sell this experience to you. And I think the best I can say is that there were people on this flight, it was their first experience, and by the time we were on the ground, they were already booking their next one. And if you are in that position where you want to get your ticket and fly, then go to the website, use the code ZGScottManley, you'll get a small discount, and of course, when you start floating around the cabin, just remember, I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.